I grew up in North Carolina for the first 15 years of my life. Our neighborhood was bad, especially since criminals lived there. My best friend, who I usually called Mike, lived just 2 doors down. We had other friends, of course, but we used to regularly hang out, just him and me. We would normally ride bicycles together around the neighborhood or play video games, just normal kid things. When we were 13, we were bicycling around the vicinity one night and decided to pay a visit to a famous abandoned mansion. It had been empty for a decade since no one would buy it for any reason whatsoever. After we pulled up on our bicycles to the front of the mansion, Mike pointed to the window and said, "Look." I pushed my bike a bit closer to the doorway and concentrated my eyes on it. I could see somebody looking through the window. I couldn't tell if they were looking at us or not, but it was certainly someone's face sitting behind the curtains. It was really shocking because the place had been unknown for decades. We viewed for longer than we should have, maybe, and saw something else that was unusual. That person did not move their face at all. We moved a bit closer to the empty driveway. In fact, when getting closer, it seemed to be a Halloween decoration that looked like an artificial head. This meant an individual had snuck into the mansion to put it there. Mike and I, being the naughty children we used to be, came up with an idea to sneak in through the back way and look around the mansion. We placed our bikes on the side of the mansion behind an overgrown yard, then slipped into the yard. To our shock, the back door was already open. But when we come to think of it, it was not that shocking because it seemed somebody had earlier broken in to put that artificial head there. We entered into the house, but we were afraid to turn the lights on and expose the fact that we were inside the house. It was very dark in there, therefore, we could not find our way around the house. We got to the sitting area first since we wanted to find out about that artificial head at the window. It smelled horrible in the room though. I dropped it and screamed. I dropped it not since it was shockingly heavy, but since it also felt like real skin. I saw a red liquid flowing out from the bottom of the skull that was now on the floor. It was blood. It was a human head. There were 2 holes in the ceiling above us. Mike and I stared at each other with our mouths wide open. We fled for the back entrance and got back on our bicycles to get out of that place. Anyone in our nearby neighborhood realized quite soon that the head belonged to a victim of the criminals, who reportedly put the head there as some kind of information. I don't think anybody knew the complete narrative, but there was the possibility that whoever put that head there was still in the house since Mike and I both heard sounds in the ceiling above us, as if somebody was coming down. It was a very stormy night. Every person in my family was doing their own stuff. I was in my bedroom watching TV, both of my parents were in the family room watching an entertaining show, and my brother was playing video games upstairs. I often enjoyed stormy evenings like these since they caused me to feel relaxed. I felt relaxed until there was a strange bang on my window. I got up and peered outside. There was somebody outside my window, but the massive amount of rain flowing down on the windows hid his face. He started hitting my window. It seemed like he was crying out for help. I opened the window just a bit, and he was screaming, "Let me in. I'm seriously wounded." The rain was so loud I had to yell at him to come around in front. Then I closed my window. I hurried outside to the family room to inform my father that there's a man who looks to be in trouble and crying for help outside, and then came the knocks and asked for help outside our front door. My father was going to open the front door, but I stopped him. I said wait, since I was not sure whether that was a good idea. When the phone rang and showed the caller ID of our next-door neighbor, my father rushed to pick it up. When I heard him say, "No fucking way," I knew something was amiss. He hung up the phone and said, "Stay away from the door." He didn't explain why, he simply walked to the window and looked at the front balcony. There is where he said he saw a man pounding on the door, carrying some kind of huge, sharp tool. My dad shouted through the front door at the man to go away before police could get here. Then he got on the phone with the police. Finally, the man outside gave up, and he left the next time we checked. When my father was on the phone with a next-door neighbor, he told my father that he spotted some homeless-looking man walking around his shed and came out with an axe. Policemen spotted the insane man walking around the streets, and it made it into newspapers just a few days later. One night when I was a small child, I was in the family room watching my favorite cartoon. I had the television on quite loud, but I thought I could hear my mother shouting my name from downstairs. I called back, "What?" She did not respond, so I assumed she could not hear me. I heard her call me yet again, so I walked down to the basement. The lights were off, therefore, halfway down, I called for my mother. She did not respond. I didn't know where she might be calling me from, but one thing was for sure though, she was not in the basement. I began to walk back up the stairs, but before I could get to the top stairs, I heard my mother's voice again from down in the basement shouting my name. I ran back up to the top step, switched off the lights, and stepped halfway back down, peeping into the basement. I didn't see my mother anywhere down there. Surge of horror. I ran up to my mother. She came running down the stairs from upstairs, and I screamed to her that someone was calling my name from downstairs that sounded just like her. She told me that she had not been calling me. She went down to the basement. I'm sure she couldn't believe me, why would she? I was a small child. But I still believe that I heard what I heard. Last month, a man came to my house's door at 8 p.m. He knocked on the door, so I got my mother, and she stepped out to check who it was. By the way, we reside in a rural area, therefore, visits that late are really unusual and strange. The man talked to my mother about how he had just started a business, asked if she liked American-made goods, and then gave her a Clorox container as a sample. He went back to his car and opened it to get a vacuum cleaner. When my mother saw more than 5 men standing inside, she asked me to go and fetch my phone because we don't have a landline. I did not find it, so I took my knife and hid around the corner. She put the container outside and ordered them to get out of her home, as well as that she was contacting the police. They drove out of the driveway, and we never saw the car again.